friends, this is Laura with Potpourri of Life. I hope that you're doing well. Today is February 13th, Tuesday, and what I want to talk to you about is about health and healing in that venue. And part of it is I've been reading different things and listening to different podcasts and so forth, and it's just made me stop and realize that things that I've been feeling inside might actually be true, but it might be not in my setting, but it could be in other settings, but sometimes we don't know. But I'm going to share what I do know, and maybe this will make you think about your own journey. And part of this is because so many of us are running off to the doctors for a cold. We're going to the ER, or we're doing, different things that we don't necessarily need to do. And I hear a lot of people complain about the cost of medicine, which is your pharmaceuticals, the cost to go to the ER, any of these things, they're costly. I have to admit, I'm just kind of like, this is too much. Does that mean I'm against healthcare? No. I actually find that as long as you have a good provider who listens, that you have the potential to get better. Now, they may not be able to heal you, but at least they would be your partner in understanding. So if you come across another complication or they're helping you with something ongoing, at least you have that relationship being built. So I typed it out because there's a lot of things to consider. So please bear with me. So my title is Health and Healing from Within and from Our Joint Effort with Our Healthcare Providers. We are each traveling our own journeys. Some experience trials from the moment they enter the world, while others encounter those trials along the way, sometimes early and sometimes towards the ends of our lives. So we could be having a wonderful life, no complication, life is great, and then as we get older, we get more complications. Sometimes it's throughout our whole life. It doesn't matter how we endure it, it's a matter of how, yes, it is a matter of how we endure it. How do we overcome it? So each path brings us to the next fork in the road. And I say that because of my own experiences in terms of things when I was younger, the things we learned and what not to do. My journey with Lyme disease was a very long journey, and now I'm at the point where it's just when the flares happen, I know what to do without needing medication, without needing to see the doctor. But that was a long journey. So you end up with different things that happen as we age. It's such a gift. And with our age, we gain wisdom. We can be frustrated in this world today. It's been kind of crazy. So let me continue on. So each path brings us to the next fork in the road. We're always making choices of what is right for each of us individually. My choice may not be the right choice for you. Yet our overall health and need to heal starts within. It's not something your doctors can prescribe you to heal from within. A lot of our healing has to be from here and here. So it is not just about nutrition and getting the right supplements, and I'll talk about supplements on another video, nor the right medication, but rather develop relationships that nourish our growth. Taking time to be quiet and to meditate. And in order to do that, it makes us stop. It takes the stress away. It might not take the problem away, but it allows you to stop and breathe. Over the last few years, we have seen the true nature of health in our world. As patients, we need to be aware of our mental health needs, not speaking of requiring a therapist, because a lot of people, when they say you have a mental health condition, you need to go see this therapist. First of all, there's not enough around. And I think many of them are kind of like taking mental breaks themselves, stepping aside. But I'm not talking about that type of mental health, because I think in a lot of cases, we can take care of that on our own if we're willing to listen to our hearts and what we're feeling, and in a reasonable, not a paranoid type of way, just in a reasonable, functionable way. So we need to be aware of those mental health needs, as well as the needs to be aware of our physical and spiritual needs. And so these all encompass the following: strengthening our physiological and biological needs such as air, food, water, shelter, clothing, warmth, sex, and sleep. We need all those things. Can we live without some? Yeah, but please get your sleep, get your water, get your fresh air, make sure you're eating nutritiously. I don't know, I think they're all important. Creative needs, whether artistically, art, instrumental music, such as playing an instrument and singing, etc., medicinally, such as in gardening, providing nutritious food and beneficial herbs, but even the act of working in a garden is very therapeutic for our minds. Functional skills such as home repair, creative woodworking, sewing, etc. Creative individuals have a manner in which they can kind of go away from things and start working on different things. Today, I'm working on I'm repurposing a leather jacket into another item, which I'll be showing in another video. But that's how I function sometimes. Sometimes I need to get away, and if it's not that, I'm studying on the herbs or I'm out in the garden. To which all of these different things will benefit our mental health. Be physically active with intentional fitness and everyday physical activity. That does not mean you need a membership to a gym. It means intentional, making a personal choice to go for a walk, even if it's just 3 times a week, making an intention to say, hey, I am going to go and do this. And everyday physical activity. Don't just sit in the recliner and think everything's going to fall into place. Because first of all, you're neglecting your living space. And I know that a lot of people have busy lives and so the house is cluttered, but taking the time to kind of pick up so that you feel good in the environment that is supposed to be nurturing to you. Let's see, although we can have our own, it encompasses our physical needs of fitness, physical activity, as well as nutrition. Although we each have our own method of doing it. With our spiritual needs, the venue one chooses is taking time to be present in the moment with a desire to learn and discover meaning, but also that of listening. So in a spiritual way, I personally worship God. I believe in Christ. I know that in my worship time, in my prayer life, these are all meaningful to me. Now, when I say I meditate, some people might think it's New Age, and I can understand why they might see that, but it's not the New Age in which when I do certain things that could be construed as that, more often than not, if you really knew me, you would understand that I am praying to God. I'm talking to God through the things that I'm trying to understand. But in this, whether you are Christian, whether you're into New Age or whatever method you are in, is taking the time to listen, to hear what is being said. And this can happen in a relationship when you're talking. And this is something my husband and I have talked about. It's like, okay, I'm talking, just shush, because I need to get this off my chest. And the same respect goes to him. Taking the time to hear the words so that we can better understand the dynamics of where they're coming from, their emotional needs, and taking care of one another. So it's not just in our personal marital lives, it's in our friendship needs, it's in our healthcare needs, it's in every aspect of our lives, is to be able to sit back and listen. One thing that I wanted to read, I get this magazine, it's called Brain and Life. I had a neurologist before I was finally diagnosed with Lyme disease, and she was doing all sorts of tests, and she couldn't find out what was wrong. But in this magazine that I got this week, it talks about blue zones and stress. And blue zones, strong social networks and community bonds also prove vital for people's mental and emotional well-being. So later on, I'm not going to read the whole article because, you can actually find this online. So how to adopt a blue zone life? Make your diet primarily plant-based is what they're suggesting. Personally, I like having meat, so I will have farm-grazed, grass-fed beef and stuff from local farms. That is my preference because I feel that it is safer protein. But here it talks about having a plant-based diet. Is there anything wrong with that? Am I objecting to that? No. I think that has to be a choice that makes you feel better and makes you feel like you're treating your body well. So consume unprocessed foods, which I totally support, including fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. These are all very nutritious, and the legumes can provide you with the protein and some calcium and stuff like that. You have to understand what is in each food item that you're consuming. And you know what? You can find this out at the library. You can find it out in books, borrow one from a friend, and you can also go online to seek this out. Be very careful in what you're finding out there, because if you're looking for something to answer your question and your wants, you might be missing out on something that could be very beneficial to you. So find out what your nutrients are. Limit meat consumption to around 5 times a month and keep meat servings modest. So, this is kind of nice that they did think about this, that there are some people who will consume meat, but they're not saying to gorge on meat, although the carnivore diet does have meat, all meat-based foods, which includes eggs and stuff. So use your own devices, use your own mental capacity to research and what foods actually bring you pleasure that is not processed. And for some who like processed foods, it will take some time to adapt. So do a little bit at a time. And if you're really wanting to make changes for your health, do this for at least 21 days. Start with, limit your food, limit your meat, and make sure you get as many vegetables that you enjoy. Add new ones as you go along. But try your best to stay away from the processed food. And sometimes you can start it with once a week, treat yourself to something. That might help you transition, although it might transition you back as well. Pay attention to your portions, because you don't need to have a huge platter of food, although it can be tempting, especially if you really, really like it. So stop eating before you feel completely full. And how this can help you is you can drink water as you go, and that helps to fill your body. After a while, you learn what the portion sizes are that allow you to feel full and feel comfortable without feeling bloated, getting heartburn, so you want to slow down too. Avoid eating anything else for the rest of the day. So once I get to about 5 o'clock at night, I'm done eating. Sometimes it's 6. It depends on our schedule. But for the most part, same thing with David. We tend to eat between 11 and 6. And it's not intentional, it's just the way our schedules are, and we're okay with that. So I might eat 1 to 2 meals. He'll eat 2, maybe 3 meals. So it's all a difference in terms of our preferences and what we're comfortable with. Move every single day. Instead of joining a gym, start walking. Gardening or volunteering. Aim for a holistic activity that supports both physical and mental well-being. And as we get older, we sometimes find that we can't do what we once did. When I was younger, I used to run, and I loved it. It was like getting out and releasing a lot of stress. I can't do that anymore. When my knees started to hurt a while back, I had to stop. So, and I'm very careful now due to other things, but that doesn't mean I can't go for a walk. It doesn't mean I can't get and start doing some stairs, like walking up and down my cellar stairs. There are things that we can still do without joining a club and being healthy. Get sufficient sleep. And I realize that for some people this can be very difficult because of the stress in your lives or an illness that you might be enduring. And for me, I found that stress exacerbates the need for sleep, meaning that you might not be able to sleep because your brain is always going. And you're always worried. And there are things that you can do to reduce the worry, but first you got to find meaning in your life. You need to decide what is important, and sometimes you have to let go of some things that you thought were essential. So get sufficient sleep. It contributes to physical health, mental well-being, and happiness. Listen to your body's natural rhythms, make sleep a priority, and consider daytime naps. Yes! Yes, I take naps from time to time, not every day, but I do take naps. Find a purpose. Discover your reason to wake up every day. Even if you don't have a reason, get up, and if you're still feeling yuck, get in the shower. Take a nice, refreshing shower. Let's see, cultivate a sense of purpose in daily activities. With my herbal studies, what I'm cultivating there is more understanding of how herbs can benefit our health. In some cases, they can resolve health issues, but it also gives me education knowledge of what's out there so that when a physician might suggest a prescription, I can have the knowledge to ask questions. So maybe you're not an herbalist, maybe you're not interested in the green grass that's growing in your yard, but you have the potential, if you are reading and trying to understand things, not to go into your doctor and say, hey, this is what I have. We don't want to be hypochondriacs. We want to understand what's going on. I do feel that being well versed and knowledgeable about things that could be going on, allow the physician to do what they need to do so that they can help diagnose you and help you along. Cultivate a positive attitude. I realize in this day and age it's difficult, and that's the one thing that I've noticed over the last 4 years, that people have lost the ability to be positive. And we're all going to have things that bring us down. Nobody's going to bring us out of that. We have to do that. We can have people that we talk to, but unless it's in our heart to want to do better, it's not going to change, and we get stuck in a place where we're never happy. So I want to encourage you to find, exactly what they're saying. Find a purpose. Find joy. Okay, you might not like herbs. You might not want to study health issues. You might not be interested in music and exercising. Do you like photography? Get out and do something like that. Whatever it is, find something that gives you purpose to get up every day. Maintain a social life. Now this is really hard, more so as we get older. As we leave the work environment, sometimes those relationships that we built while we were working kind of dissolve. And I haven't figured out why that happens, but it does. And so we end up in a void of loneliness and not feeling to fit in. So it's really important for us to build on our purpose so that we can socialize. And like I said, this world is going a little flip-floppy, and sometimes it's scary to even consider being sociable. Choose or build social circles that support healthy behaviors. For some people it'll be their church, some people it'll be in a sewing group, some people, whatever it is, try when you get into those groups not to be like a complaining environment, but rather an environment where you are teaching one another and uplifting, even though their skills might not be the way you deem it supposed to be, but maybe you can teach them, and vice versa. Be open to learning. Your social network can significantly shape your health and well-being. You need to downshift. Your stress is inevitable, but how you deal with it makes all the difference. Establish routines to shed stress, whatever, through reflection, prayer, a short nap or walk, and a happy hour. And they're not talking about a happy hour of going out and consuming a bunch of alcohol. They're telling you to sit back, enjoy some music, spend time with your spouse or your kids or whatever that brings you joy. And stay away from the computers. One thing that I don't allow when my husband and I are having conversations is there's no technology. We do not have the computers open. We don't have our phones on. We take the time to listen. And I think if we did more of that, you might find that we're coming back to the basics of hearing what each other has to say. Combat chronic inflammation and age-related diseases by taking intentional breaks. And sometimes those breaks mean working towards health. Like my activities, I have to be very careful due to osteoporosis, but I don't take that as that diagnosis as something that's going to define me. I have chosen, even though it really bothered me when I was diagnosed, I decided that, okay, that's what I have. What can I do? I can't do some of the things I used to, but I can do other things to build the strength, make sure the foods I consume are appropriate. So we have the choice to make changes to better us. Put your family first. And I realize families are falling apart everywhere, but where you can, make sure that they are a priority. But that doesn't mean to enable them to do things that are harmful to others or to themselves, but rather to encourage them and uplift them to allow them to grow. Be an advocate for healthier policies. Now, I'm not into politics at all, but what I'm going to share a little bit here might get a little political. But be an advocate for yourself. Be willing to stand up and say, this is what needs to happen. So I'm going to continue on with my notes. As the world transitions, people are transitioning too. So whatever's happening through the government, through the changes, all these things that are coming at us, we need to make decisions as we transition while going through events and circumstances they never imagined. So we're all dealing with a lot of stuff. Over the last 4 years, I have personally endured and have watched others experience shock, anger, bitterness, stress, pain, frustration, and more. And it steals their joy and their peace. It takes a personal choice to stop and reflect, to make changes that will benefit our emotional health, allowing us as individuals to grow and heal. Our brain has a lot to do with how our body heals. Where our health is concerned, when we want to heal, it does not always mean that there is a cure. Sometimes it means acceptance, adapting, and fighting an upward battle to regain our strength. But what holds us back is the sense that we are alone on our journey. And part of this is the result of how society, even in healthcare, shrugs off the reality of what one is enduring and walks away with the notion that another pain, hurt, or complaint is not valid. Yet as patients, we need to be aware that healthcare workers are also patients with the same type of challenges. So even as a Lyme patient, I'm not dwelling on it. This is just something that is true, and it's happening with patients who have had long COVID. We share our complaints, and eventually we just feel like we're not being heard. I know of other people who have Lyme disease. I'm on a group that people share what they're going through, and it is heartbreaking because each of our journeys is different. Our social lives are different. And when we are sick, our social lives dissipate. And oftentimes people say, well, just call me if you need anything. And that happens in healthcare. We go in and they might do something, they might suggest something, but nobody follows up. It's up to us to follow up. And friends or acquaintances will require that we call them. If they say, let me know if there's something I can do, which means that that person who's not feeling so great has to make the initiative. Is it a bad thing? Not really if that gets you out of bed, but it's also kind of sad that people feel like they don't have to reach out to you if you're not asking for help. But when people are ill or not doing well, sometimes that loneliness can make it like, I'm not going to call. So do what you can. Try to establish relationships where people will follow up, that people will reach out to you from time to time. That doesn't mean a daily phone call. It just means reach out. Sadly, the institution of health has changed over the years. It is not just the result of excessive administrative overhead, but also that of the insurance companies making decisions that benefit them versus the patient, as well as the physician who is trying to care. With limited clinical time, there is no longer time to see patients in an effort to understand the root cause of their complaint for the goal of healing. Sadly, the institutions have eliminated the ability for the patient and physicians to have mutual autonomy, to make decisions that benefit the patient and provide the physician a clear conscience and giving the patient options that are not just in the form of a pill or surgery. Sometimes it just means them taking the time to hear you without judging, and that can sometimes happen. Although I can see some benefits of alternate intelligent, that is my personal term for what fills the void between human interaction and the modern day of communicating. And this is in healthcare as well as in various jobs too. I see a huge disservice towards meeting our basic human needs with the ability to retain some dignity and privacy. My personal view sees how this might come at a cost, and once it is fully utilized, it will wreak havoc on our healthcare decisions, and for some, the discomfort resulting in a decision to no longer be seen, to no longer have care. Today I read how Epic, which is a software program that many hospitals use to put all the information in, it goes to other sources, and then that's how they bill and so forth. I read how they have embedded into their system a software program, it's called Abridge, for clinical documentation within its standard workflows. It's not in all clinical settings yet, but it is in some, and so I think it's going to be not too far in the future that it may be in any of our healthcare systems. This integration claims that it will allow clinicians to leverage the capacity to capture the entire patient visit and their journey, ranging from recording conversation in Haku to integrating notes directly into the patient chart, which will hyperdrive the billing process. I realize that this could be a good thing, yet I question, is this for the benefit of profits, or will it benefit the patient, allowing them to have more one-on-one time with their provider to have answers? And, sometimes I think, because I see the notes after my visit, and sometimes there are things that were not written up accurately, so I'll just send a note to my doctor and he either clarifies it with me or he fixes it. And you got to think about it. These physicians are seeing patients every 20, 30, 40 minutes. And, so they go from one room to the next. So while the nurse is bringing in one patient, he's finishing up with the first patient. And it's something that's the way it works for them to see everybody that's on their schedule. Another thing, I learned this a while ago, is that some physicians utilize scribes. Many are in the room with the physician and patient, and oftentimes that is with orthopedic docs. I've had a scribe in there once with one doc and not with another. So it depends on the physician, of course, while others are off-site or in another room listening. I'm not sure if this is happening to where I'm seeing, but it does make me quite uncomfortable, and I have been meaning to ask. And I don't know how to say it without kind of like get myself kicked out. It's not that I think we need to be transparent. I have asked a couple of times, am I being recorded? And I'm told no. So that is something that you need to be able to do on your own, is have that conversation with your doctor before you start sharing stuff that just kind of transitions each topic. As patients, what can we do about the craziness, about the changes that are being made? Well, in one way, if you want to make changes to better your health and not be involved in some cases, and I've been victim of this, I say victim as you go to see a doctor and then there's one test, and all of a sudden you're seeing all these physicians all throughout the facility having tests and stuff. That's exhausting and it's costly. So we can't change things. Let me see. Okay, as patients, what can be done? First of all, those of us who are able, change our eating habits, grow our own food, and stay clear of all processed foods, as it was shared in this article I shared with you. And return to natural means for nutrition, and I'm not talking about supplements. Ask questions for what concerns you. Speak with your physicians about how you can reduce your medications so that your dependency on them and Big Pharma is reduced. Be intentional about change. More importantly, which I believe is the hardest to do, because it was hard for me, I'm doing so much better, it's awesome, is reduce your stress. Because stress can cause pain, it can cause weight gain, it can cause disease or exacerbate disease that you might be dealing with. And some of the ways that I've reduced my stress is I've accepted some situations. Can you accept things that have happened in your life? Can you accept that you might have to let go of people who have caused this on you? You have to make choices. That does not mean not to love others. It does not mean not to be caring, because I believe that is something we still need. Okay, for me, I still need to do. I was talking to my husband the other night about this. I said, I realize that I've been making these transitions, but the one thing that I cannot stop, because this is a part of who I am as a person, is there are things that I like to do for others. I like to be able to treat people with respect, and I like taking the time to hear when somebody's not doing well. Whether it's in the grocery store, this happens a lot, and my husband says, do you know them? I said, no, but I know all about them. Because sometimes people are drawn to those they feel they can trust. And I feel honored when they feel like they can do that. But also in other venues, when people are caring for me, or when my husband does something nice, just saying thank you, or doing something nice in return. These are all things that can enhance our purpose in life, is to find joy in treating others the way we want to be treated. So, as consumers of health, we can't change things for our physicians and nurses other than to treat them with respect and kindness. If they are arrogant and demeaning, find a new one. Unfortunately, they are not speaking up for their needs to honor their oath to care, being neglected by patients, colleagues, and upper management. This is happening. Sometimes as patients, one can go in and just because you're hurting so bad, or you feel like you're not being heard, or your appointment is not long enough, or whatever the reason is, I'm not saying it's not valid, we need to take a step back and realize that the world doesn't revolve around just us. We are all here together to work together. Gone are the days when they had the ability to make decisions and stand up for their patients without insurance intervention, which fatigues them when they are trying to help their patients. While some patients continue to be in pain, and others will die as they wait. Eventually, the metrics that favor profit over the mission of delivering appropriate care will hurt them, their bottom line, and the health of their patients, which I believe is the majority of providers that are most interested in. What I'm saying is, I believe most providers want to see their patients thrive. They can't do it all, so we as patients have to do what we can. But they can't do enough because they have chain link fences that are around their limits with how much time they can spend with you. And even now, doctors are not able to take the time to give you a phone call or to write back to you with an explanation that makes sense. Let's see. Healing and maintaining health with a quality of life as a goal begins with us as patients. We need to make healthy changes that will make a difference. We need to be advocates for ourselves. We need to speak up when something does not make sense and ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask your physician or nurse questions. You want to know something? They will be the first to tell you we don't know it all. And when you put them on a pedestal, and I suppose we all can do that because they've helped us or something like that, but when we put them on a pedestal, they might not feel comfortable saying, I don't know the answer. But sometimes they don't. But we as a team can work together to try to find that answer, hopefully. So we need to speak up when something does not make sense and ask those questions. And we have to be accepting to some tough direction, such as when they share your weight might be an issue. Yes, they need to take the time to understand why you might be dealing with an unhealthy weight, but at the same time, with the goal of better health and fewer visits to the institutions, make decisions in a patient-doctor relationship. It's a partnership working together. This will require that you schedule an extended visit at times, where very few providers are willing to do this because the goal is for more appointments for more income. And we need to be empathetic, but at the same time, who is paying for our time? Who's paying for the gas to go back for a second visit? So make sure you have notes before you go in. You can actually send a list of complaints through the portal if you're comfortable with that, or a letter in the mail, so that they have it ahead of time so they know what you want to address, and then they can say, okay, this is what I can do. Will they read it nowadays? I'm not sure. I'd like to think that they would, but if they got a letter from every single patient, they don't have time for that. And so be understanding of that. More so with the family care providers, they're booked out and they work at home, and a lot of patients don't realize that. Have a little compassion. Making these changes does not mean you will never need care. It just means you will find yourself better understanding your body and potentially needing less external dependency on them. Living life fully does not mean that we will have no health issues, never experience loneliness or loss, but rather taking each day and challenging ourselves to be better than the day before, finding joy and beauty in each moment. Folks, that's pretty much all I wanted to share, but I also hope that this moment of reflection, of taking time to kind of like think these things through. Will you agree with my views? Possibly not. And will I be offended by that? No, because one thing that we all need to understand is my views are just based on my experience, my knowledge, the amount of what I read, and the things that I have found that have been helping me. So this might not help you, but I'm hoping as a whole it will help us to have better relationships with our care providers. I'm also hoping that it can help us to step back and say, do I really need to go? And when they ask you, you need to come back, be willing to ask why. And start expecting them. If they want you to give them answers, expect that they will follow up to see how you're doing. Because it's been a long time since I've known a doctor or a nurse to call with a follow-up to say, hey, how's it going? They're so busy. Once you're gone out of that room, you're forgotten. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it is the truth. But you can develop a very healthy relationship when you treat them well, even though you might not like that feature of healthcare today. You can develop a good relationship so that they remember that, hey, she's a kind person, or he's very good at this. He's willing to do his exercises. We need to do a part of the healing. We can't expect miracles without a joint effort. Miracles belong to God, and these physicians and nurses are not magicians. They are doing a job that they were trained for that requires a little respect, except the ones who are arrogant and don't care. But for the most part, those that do, give them what they need to help them help you. I hope this moment finds you with healing and good health, and I pray that God blesses you. Enjoy your day.